you were talking about, delighting developers, showcasing their work, all the different aspects of showing developers the value in APIs and vice versa, and giving them love.
And this is in the 2000s. This is before anybody was doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Laura was doing that, in 2004,
South by
2005,
Southwest.
like when we didn't think it was a thing.
Yeah.
South by Southwest. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. And what kickstarted that thinking was John. So you're at this point, you were probably at what, 2,000, 3,000 in your inventory of APIs. What kickstarted this thinking of making developers like first-class citizens, really?
Right. SD Forum was all about bringing developers together and hosting events. I was actually telling somebody the other day, I was like, I hosted the first in-world virtual conference. I don't know if you guys remember that. Second Life, we hosted, SD Forum held a conference in Second Life. We did it both live and in the virtual world. This is, when was this? This was 2005. Like, right? Like, so when you think back, and now everybody's like, oh, Fortnite, and we're going to host an event. And I'm like, yeah, been there, done that. Anyway.
Like 15 years ago.
Quality, but like been there, done that.
The truth about it.
But what's astonishing to me, everyone, is in the space of maybe, you can count on one hand 2-3 years, there was this like aggressive productization of developer love. And it's now, it's the same story today. If you have a hackathon, it's the same principles that originated from your guys' work.
Yeah, well, it's William Gibson all over again, right? The features already
here. It hasn't moved.
It's just unevenly distributed. No, it has moved. So here's the most funny thing, right? So after I kind of fall in love with John's mind as I meet it on the internet through his talks and his diagrams, and it's like looking at all these mashups and the Google Maps examples, I end up running all of DevRel for all of Google. Right? This is like 2017. And so one of the things that I end up owning DevRel for is Maps. And I'm like, oh, Maps, how cool is this? And so I start to get some proprietary information about the Maps API, because they start to say, well, we've got all this usage. I'm like, how much usage? They're like, we've got all this usage, but we're not making enough money. I'm like, no, actually, how much usage? So how many individual API keys, and individual applications do you think existed for Google Maps?
What time? What date?
2017.
Millions.
Over
Uber's
30.
got to count for 90% of that.
No. Over 30 million individual apps. Uber would count as one.
Oh, wow.
30 million.
Wow.
Google Map API, not just the keys, but actually traffic from independent applications.
But I do think the developer piece goes back even before that to like before APIs, I would say to open source code. Go back to the first open source business conference. OSBC was held in what, 2002, Sam? Right?
I miss it in the Palace Hotel, Matt AC. I wasn't one of the cool kids, right? So I didn't get to go until like 2007, I think. But yeah, that was a thing.
But that was the rise of the developers, right? And the developer conferences and getting everybody in a room and just, letting them lead the way. That's when they started to become kingmakers. Why? Because it was open source. They could just go and pull source code in off the web and start using it, right? And I think part of that is what led to making them the kingmakers, because they were building things that would then help the enterprise. And so that's how you got to enterprise business models, right? But that came up through developers, which is why Mashery was like, well, gosh, our way into an enterprise is by getting the developers to want to use it, but the business has to know how to monetize it, right? So it was kind of this push and pull thing that you had to create. That's how it all kind of, I don't know, I go back and the open source code people that started it.